Imagine a country with almost no major rivers. A country where around 90% of the land is desert, while most of the population lives along the northern coast. Libya faces a problem that sounds simple, but is extremely difficult to solve. People need water, but much of that water lies deep beneath the Sahara, hundreds, sometimes even thousands of kilometers away from the major cities. Farther inland, the landscape becomes increasingly hostile. Sand, rock, extreme dryness. And during periods of intense heat, temperatures in parts of the desert can rise above 50 degrees Celsius. Libya is one of the driest countries in the world. Across much of the country, there is almost no reliable surface water, and Libya chose a solution that sounds almost like science fiction. Drill deep into the desert. Extract ancient groundwater. Move it through enormous pipelines. Then carry that water across the country to supply cities, farms, and agricultural areas along the coast. The system is called the Great Man-Made River, a river that does not flow across the surface. For most of its journey, it remains hidden beneath the sands of the Sahara. But after more than 40 years of construction and operation, this project is no longer only a story about engineering. It is also a story about the limits of water, about war, about agriculture, about one very important question. How long can a country continue to depend on an ancient underground water reserve? To understand why Libya attempted something this extreme, we first need to look at the map. Northern Libya faces the Mediterranean Sea. This is also where major cities such as Tripoli and Benghazi are located. But as you move south, the landscape quickly becomes the Sahara. Sand, rock, extreme heat, and very little surface water. In many areas, Libya has only dry riverbeds known as wadis. Water may appear briefly after rare heavy rains, but it quickly disappears. In this environment, water is not simply a resource. It can determine whether a city can survive. The problem is that most of Libya's population lives in the north, but major underground water reserves lie far to the south. If Libya could not move its cities closer to the water, there was only one solution: move the water to the cities. The story begins in 1953. At the time, Libya was not searching for water, it was searching for oil. But during exploration drilling, geologists discovered enormous ancient aquifers beneath the Sahara. This was not groundwater that had accumulated after a few rainy seasons. This was fossil water, water that had remained trapped inside deep sandstone formations for tens of thousands of years. Some sources cited in the project materials estimate that part of this water may be around 38,000 to 40,000 years old. Think about that. When many civilizations we know today did not yet exist, this water was already there. No lake, no waves, no shoreline, nothing visible from the surface. The water remained inside pores and fractures in the rock, an invisible ocean beneath the desert. Libya realized that beneath one of the driest landscapes on Earth lay a resource that could be as strategically important to the country as oil. But discovering water and delivering it to cities are two completely different challenges. After 1969, under Muammar Gaddafi's government, the idea of using this underground water was pushed forward on a national scale. The vision was clear: move water from southern aquifers to population centers in the north, supply homes, supply industry, supply agriculture, and turn dry land into productive land. Gaddafi described the ambition as making the deserts bloom. But for the engineers, the reality was far less romantic. Thousands of kilometers of desert, wells hundreds of meters deep, enormous pipelines, extreme temperatures, remote construction zones, and almost no existing logistics system large enough to support a project of this scale. Before Libya could build the river, it effectively had to build an entire industrial system in the Sahara. Major construction began in August 1984. The desert began filling with drilling rigs, factories, cranes, truck convoys, and enormous concrete pipe sections. According to the project materials, Part of the network is described as around 2,820 kilometers long, while the broader project plan is described as involving more than 4,000 kilometers of pipeline. Water comes from major underground basins including Kufra, Sirte, and Merzuk. Many wells were designed to reach water more than 500 meters underground. Engineers drilled through sand and rock. Steel casings stabilized the wells. Individual wells were connected to smaller collection lines. Those smaller lines eventually fed into the main pipelines. Like capillaries feeding into one enormous artery, specialized facilities were built to manufacture massive reinforced concrete pipe sections. Some were so large that an adult could stand upright inside them. Concrete was poured into cylindrical molds. High-strength steel wire increased pressure resistance. Protective layers were added. Then, every section had to be transported into the desert, lowered into prepared trenches, aligned, sealed, tested, and buried. One section, then another, then another. The process continued across thousands of kilometers. Once buried, much of the system became almost invisible. A person could stand directly above it without realizing that an enormous volume of water was moving beneath their feet. But pipelines alone were not enough. The system also needed pumping stations, control points, valves, power systems, and reservoirs. Control rooms monitored flow and pressure. As the water approached major population centers in the north, it entered balancing and storage reservoirs. One of the most important was Ahdabia. From the air, a huge body of blue water surrounded by dry land looks almost unreal. But it represented a crucial transition point between the underground transport network and the distribution system serving populated areas. In 1989, water reached the Ajdabia Reservoir. After years of construction, fossil water that had remained beneath the Sahara for tens of thousands of years was finally moving towards cities along the Mediterranean coast. The project had stopped being an idea. It had become infrastructure people could actually use. The water entered cities, homes, industry, and agriculture. Where enough water became available, dry land could be irrigated. Fields appeared. Fruit trees were planted. Agricultural areas expanded, including citrus orchards and lemon groves. A lemon growing in a landscape once defined by drought is a powerful image. But behind that image is a difficult equation. Every green field needs water. Every orchard needs water. Every growing city needs even more water. And the groundwater beneath the Sahara is not unlimited. A project of this scale was also enormously expensive. According to the project materials, the overall cost is often cited at around $27 billion. The first phase included major excavation work and pipelines carrying water toward Ajdabia, Benghazi, and Sirte. The second phase extended the system from southwestern Libya toward Tripoli and the Jeffera Plain. Later phases were designed to expand capacity, pipelines, and pumping infrastructure. This was never simply a river built once and then completed. It became a multi-phase project stretching across decades. From 1984 to today, more than 40 years have passed, and Libya changed dramatically during that time. Governments changed, conflicts erupted, expansion plans stalled, maintenance became more difficult, and infrastructure once presented as proof that the desert could be conquered gradually became infrastructure the country could not afford to lose. This reveals the weakness of a huge centralized water network. The more important the system becomes, the more strategic its vulnerable points become. During periods of conflict, infrastructure connected to the network was damaged, interrupted, or taken out of service. According to the project materials, a 2019 report stated that 101 of 479 wells on the Western system had been dismantled. In 2020, an installation linked to Tripoli's water supply came under the control of armed forces. That reveals an uncomfortable truth. The city may contain millions of people, but But if its water supply depends on a limited number of wells, pipelines, valves, power sources, and control stations, disruption at only a few critical points can place pressure on the entire city. A system built to create water security can itself become strategically vulnerable during conflict. But war is not the only challenge. There is a deeper limitation. The water beneath the Sahara does not fit neatly inside political borders. The Nubian Sandstone Aquifer system extends beneath Libya, Egypt, Sudan, and Chad. On the surface, people draw borders. Underground, water does not care about those lines. More importantly, much of this is fossil water. It accumulated under climatic conditions very different from those of modern North Africa. It is not replenished quickly enough to match large-scale modern extraction. The great man-made river, therefore, does not create water. It moves water. It's a withdrawing from a savings account that nature took thousands of years to build. The account may be enormous, but it is still finite. If extraction continues too quickly, water levels may fall, wells may need to go deeper, pumping costs may rise, and eventually, the question changes. It is no longer, how much more water can Libya pump? It becomes, what should the remaining water be used for? Drinking water? Cities? Industry? Or agriculture? The dream of making the desert bloom meets the limits of mathematics. Libya's water future also extends beyond its borders. Libya, Algeria, and Tunisia have moved toward coordinated management of the northwestern Sahara Aquifer system. The three countries agreed on the principle of rational and equitable use, while strengthening coordination to support the sustainable management of this non-renewable resource. Reserves are estimated at more than 40 trillion cubic meters of fossil water. Just under two-thirds are located beneath Algeria, a little under one-third beneath Libya, and approximately 8% beneath Tunisia. Modern boreholes can reach depths of up to 1,000 meters, or 3,300 feet, increasing the ability to extract water from deep underground. That makes monitoring increasingly important. Mechanism. Mathematical models can be used to support extraction quotas for each country. Water levels can be monitored, pollution risks can be tracked, and data can be shared between the three countries. Because groundwater does not recognize political borders, managing a shared aquifer as three completely separate resources makes little hydrological sense. But regional cooperation solves only part of the problem. Also make the water it already has last longer. Its future cannot depend only on drilling more wells and pumping more fossil groundwater. The practical solution is to combine several approaches, reduce losses across existing water networks, closely monitor groundwater extraction and falling water levels, treat and reuse wastewater for agriculture and other suitable purposes, adopt more efficient irrigation and crops better adapted to arid conditions, expand seawater desalination in Mediterranean coastal cities to reduce pressure on ancient groundwater reserves, and strengthen cooperation with neighboring countries to manage shared transboundary aquifers. The objective is not to stop using fossil groundwater. For Libya, that would be unrealistic. The objective is to extend the life of this non-renewable reserve for as long as possible. The great man-made river shows what human engineering can achieve. Drill deep into the Sahara. Manufacture pipes large enough for a person to stand inside. Cut trenches across the desert. Move water for thousands of kilometers. Build reservoirs. Supply cities. Irrigate farmland. Create green orchards in one of the harshest environments on Earth. But after more than 40 years, the project teaches another lesson. Engineering can move water, but engineering cannot turn a finite resource into an infinite one. For the first generation of the Great Man-Made River, the engineering challenge was, how do we bring water across the desert? For the next generation, the challenge is different. How do we make that water last? Perhaps that is the real legacy of Libya's underground river. not simply that a country managed to build one of the most extraordinary water transfer systems in the desert, but that the system eventually forces us to confront a question that is becoming increasingly important for dry countries around the world, when a resource that took tens of thousands of years to accumulate can be consumed within only a fraction of that time. What does responsible development really mean? Beneath the sands of the Sahara, the water is still flowing. The great man-made river is still carrying water from the past toward Libya's cities. But Libya's future water security will increasingly depend not on how much more ancient water it can extract, but on how intelligently it can use every cubic meter it already has.